So it seems that for everyone who believes in the idea of heaven, they also think that they're going to heaven, which is a little strange if you really think about it. For everyone who is so cocksure walking around that their eternal destiny is going to involve strawberries and harps and chocolate dip and all that kind of stuff, I thought it would be worth examining this question just a little more critically. So like I said, my impression has always been that for everyone who believes in the concept of heaven, they also believe that they're going to go to heaven. And a survey that was done by the Barna Research group back in like 2003 confirmed as much when they discovered that almost 65% of Americans are convinced that they're going to heaven. And if I'm honest, I don't think that's very surprising. I don't think many of us would be able to function very well if we were convinced that our trajectory was a little more, I don't know, southbound. So before we can ask critical questions about the likelihood of any of us going to heaven, it might be helpful if we try to define what we mean by heaven. And since I'm trying to direct this commentary at all the people who believe they're going there, I'll try to define it in such a way that shows appreciation for the broad religious persuasions that might be contributing to those statistics. So based on that, I would define heaven as a state of existence in which everyone is perfectly happy and living in perfect harmony with each other and with God, if you want to throw him into the equation. Okay, fine. So given that definition, does it make sense that you or I are going to be able to participate in that without compromising that definition? Because I don't think that a change in scenery or the company that we keep is going to produce in us the effects that are necessary to live in a paradisal state. Paradisal? Paradise? Paradisal. To illustrate what I mean, I want you to imagine a hypothetical scenario. Imagine if everyone in the world was suddenly you. So just take everyone where they are in their life circumstance and give them your moral character and instincts. Because after all, if you're the kind of person who fits all the necessary requirements to live in a heavenly condition, as in living in perfect happiness and perfect harmony with other people, if we just took everybody in the world and replaced them with you, then the world as we know it right now should become some close approximation of heaven. Now, I can't speak for you, but if that experiment were done with me, I have to admit, I think there'd still be major problems in the world. People would still lie and cheat. There'd still be problems with lust and greed and laziness and other serious character flaws. And those problems would still be pronounced in the behavior of its citizens. Because if I'm really honest with myself, I have to admit, I have struggled with all those things in the past, and I'm pretty sure I haven't gotten it all out of my system yet. So no, I don't think that if we replaced everyone in the world, it would suddenly become this harmonious heavenly place. Why would I assume that I'm fit for a place like heaven? Because for us to live in a state of perfect harmony and happiness with each other and with God, we'd all have to get along perfectly harmoniously. But if we still have selfish attachments and instincts, if we still lie, if we still neglect the needs and feelings of others, then we aren't going to be able to live in perfect harmony with each other and God. And therefore, we are unfit for the necessary requirements needed for heavenly citizenship. Now, some people might object and say the only reason we have problems with greed and lust and pride and gluttony and all the rest is because we have limited resources that we have to compete over. People act immorally because of desperation, which wouldn't be present in heaven. And I would think that that's a reasonable explanation if it weren't for the fact that I live in one of the most prosperous societies the world has ever known. I've never had to miss a meal because of a lack of resources, and I've never had to sleep outside in the cold or in bad weather because of a lack of options. And this is true for just about everyone I know. And yet, I still succumbed to my own insecurities. I've lashed out at people in anger, I've acted irresponsibly with the resources I have, and I've definitely hurt people along the way. Desperation and a lack of resources doesn't explain that. And in fact, we've all seen how spoiled and selfish people can become when they live in luxurious abundance. Having your needs and desires met all the time does not necessarily lead to moral competence. And in fact, I would say that struggle and perseverance contribute more to strength of character than carefree luxury does. So by the looks of things, I don't think I am fit for heaven as I am right now. And if you're being honest with yourself, you might be coming to that same conclusion. And this is also why, as I surveyed the landscape of Christianity and all the various theological positions, I couldn't make sense of this idea that if you just believe that Jesus is your Lord, then you will be saved, and then it's just a waiting game until you die and you'll go to heaven. But you will definitely go to heaven. There's this underlying belief that faith in Jesus provides for the declaration of our justification, that God will just declare us just and therefore admit us to the heavenly afterlife. But that doesn't escape all the logical problems that we encountered earlier. If I still have character flaws, then I'm gonna bring those with me, which will disrupt other people's heavenly experience as well as mine, which means that we won't be able to live in a state of perfect happiness and harmony. And there's no escaping that dilemma. That's why the Catholic explanation always made the most sense to me. It demonstrated a comprehensive appreciation for the range of difficulties that arise with easy, wishful explanations about how we get to heaven. Catholicism explains that we have to be sanctified and made holy or perfect first. There's no escaping that. If we're going to live in a state of perfection, we ourselves have to be perfect. And that this comes about through the free gift of God's grace. But we have to expose ourselves to us and allow its effects to take place in us. In other words, we have to be participants in that process. And if you're a Christian, this should make sense to you because it corresponds to Jesus' teaching about the narrow gate. He said that the path to destruction, the road to destruction, is wide and many will take it. But if most of us think we're going to heaven, then there's a major dissonance there that needs to get resolved. Jesus told us that we have to pick up our cross and follow him, that we have to pick up our own form of ancient torture. And to be honest, that's not the kind of thing that I think most people who are walking around congratulating themselves for being the kind of person who is fit for heaven wants to hear. Now that may sound really negative and cynical to some people, but it's better to know what is expected of us than to sit around as if there is no task set for us, only to find out that there was when it's too late. It's like the parable of the talents, in which Jesus, in the context of a conversation about the kingdom of heaven, describes 3 servants who were entrusted with resources. 2 of those servants cultivated those resources to acquire some kind of gain or profit, and one of them did nothing with it, and he was condemned for it. If we're just sitting around assuming that we're destined for some kind of reward when we're not, then I think one of the best things that we can encounter is some of that old-fashioned cynicism. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that, then please consider subscribing and liking, and come find me on Facebook and Twitter. It's a huge help when you do that. It helps us get these videos in front of more and more people. And a big thank you goes out to You Catholic for presenting these videos. And if you want to support the making of these videos, then please consider supporting my work as a digital media and marketing expert. My company, Holdsworth Design, specializes in branding, web and graphic design, marketing, social media, videography, and all that kind of good stuff. So if you know of a parish, a diocese, a ministry, or a business that needs help in those areas, then please send them our way and I'm sure we can help them out.